December 6, 1941, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. In 24 hours, this peaceful paradise will turn into hell on earth. But no one knows that yet. The sailors of the American fleet wake up like any other day. Coffee, breakfast, jokes with their buddies. 87 warships gently sway in the harbor's waters. Battleships lined up like steel mountains. USS Arizona, USS Oklahoma, USS California. Power that seems indestructible. On board, thousands of young men who think it's just another Saturday. They're planning their evening out in the city, dates, beers at the bar. They have no idea they're writing the final chapter of their lives, that in just a few hours, many of them will no longer be here. Meanwhile, 5,000 kilometers away, 6 Japanese aircraft carriers are sailing toward them through the dark waters of the Pacific. On board, 400 planes ready to attack. The operation is already underway. The countdown has begun. Tokyo, an hour before dawn. Silence falls over the naval staff. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto stands before a map of the Pacific. It's his plan, his risk, his genius, or his madness. Yamamoto studied in America. He knows their strength. That's why he knows Japan can win only one way, with a single, precise, brutal blow that will destroy the American fleet before it can even react. Pearl Harbor is the target. There is no room for error. Admiral Nagumo's strike fleet is already in position. 6 aircraft carriers, 2 battleships, 3 cruisers. The elite of the Imperial Navy. They sail in absolute radio silence. No transmissions, no signals. To American intelligence, they simply do not exist. Yamamoto knows that if the plan succeeds, America will be powerless for months. But he also knows something else, that he is waking a sleeping giant. That this attack will change everything, and that Japan may come to regret it. Pearl Harbor, 10 a.m. Waikiki Beach is alive with activity. Tourists in swimsuits, surfers catching waves, children building sand castles. Hawaii is America's paradise on Earth. Far removed from the war raging in Europe and Asia. Here, time moves slower. In downtown Honolulu, officers are shopping for their wives. Flowers, jewelry, perfumes. Saturday is a day off. Some of them, in just a few hours, will be begging for death, trapped in sinking ships. But now they're smiling. At a bar near the docks, young sailors are playing poker, laughing, drinking beer, counting dollars. One of them, 19-year-old Tommy from Ohio, has just won $50. 2 days from now, his mother will receive a telegram. Missing in action. At the barracks on Hickam Field, young pilot George Welch is inspecting his P-40 fighter. A routine check. He doesn't know that tomorrow he will become a hero. That he'll be one of the few who will manage to get airborne. 200 kilometers north of Hawaii. The Japanese strike fleet. The water is black. The sky overcast. Perfect conditions for concealment. On board the aircraft carrier Akagi, Commander Mitsuo Fuchida is leading the final briefing with the pilots. Maps, photographs, targets. They all know them by heart. The battleships in Battleship Row, the Hickam and Wheeler airfields, the hangars, the fuel depots. Destroy everything. Leave nothing. The pilots are calm. This is the elite. Months of training, simulations, hundreds of hours of flight. Each one knows what to do. Fuchida looks at the faces of the young men. Some of them won't return. But such is Bushido, the way of the warrior. Death in service to the emperor is an honor. Below deck, in the hangar, mechanics prepare the planes. Torpedoes are mounted under the Nakajima B-5N bombers. 50-kilogram bombs under the diving Aichi D-3A. 0 fighters ready for escort. The entire war machine is perfected down to the second. At dawn, they set off. In 18 hours, Pearl Harbor will cease to exist. Pearl Harbor, early afternoon. On board the USS Arizona, the ship's commander, Captain Franklin van Valkenburg, is reviewing reports. Standard procedures, nothing extraordinary. The Arizona is the pride of the fleet, 184 meters of steel and fire. 14-inch guns, a crew of 1,400 men. Indestructible. Below deck, in the engine room, sailor Laurie Homer from Tennessee wipes the sweat from his brow. It's as hot as hell, but it's his job. In 20 hours, this engine room will become his tomb. The Arizona will sink in 9 minutes. 1,177 men will die. But right now, Homer is thinking of only one thing, his evening date in town. He's got a date with a waitress from a bar on Hotel Street. He will never go on that date. In the ship's mess hall, there's a buzz of conversation. Sailors are eating lunch, chatting, joking. Someone's complaining about the food, another telling a joke. Normalcy, the everyday, a life that will explode in an instant. Washington, D.C., 9 p.m. Eastern Time. In the White House, President Franklin D. Roosevelt is reviewing intelligence reports. Tension is rising. Japan is preparing for something big. That much is certain. But where? The Philippines? Malaya? The Dutch East Indies? American intelligence intercepts Japanese messages. They encode, decode, analyze. They know something is in the air. But Pearl Harbor? Impossible. It's too far, too risky. The Japanese wouldn't be that crazy. And yet, they are. At the same time, in the Japanese embassy in Washington, diplomats are destroying documents, burning codes, dispatches, secret materials. They're preparing. They know that in just a few hours, America and Japan will be at war. At the Navy Department, an official studies a map of the Pacific. Where is the Japanese fleet? No one knows. For weeks, there's been radio silence. They've vanished. It's unsettling. But maybe it means nothing. Maybe they're just conducting maneuvers. No one is raising the alarm. The biggest intelligence failure in American history. Pearl Harbor, late afternoon. The sun set over the Pacific. The sky ablaze with reds and golds. The last peaceful view like this. Officers in uniform head ashore. A weekend in the city. Drinks, restaurants, maybe a movie. On the dock, a sentry strolls lazily. Boredom. The same old boredom. Nothing ever happens here. In the distance, children fly kites on the beach. Their laughter carries on the wind. In just a few hours, they will be screaming in terror. In the hangar at Wheeler Field, mechanic John Smith finishes his shift. Tomorrow is Sunday. He'll be able to sleep in. Maybe he'll head to the ocean, lie on the sand. He's 22. Tomorrow, he will lose his leg to a bomb fragment. He'll survive, but will limp for the rest of his life. In his lonely cabin on the USS Oklahoma, a young sailor writes a letter to his mother. He describes Hawaii, the palms, the warmth, the beautiful girls. He ends with the words, "Don't worry, Mom. It's peaceful here, safe. Nothing can hurt me." He'll mail it in the morning. His mother will receive it a week after his death. The Japanese strike fleet. North. Absolute darkness. The ships move in complete silence. Only the sound of water against hulls. On the bridge, Admiral Nagumo looks into the distance. At dawn tomorrow, they will refuel the planes. Then take off. 2 waves of attack. The first at 6 a.m., the second 45 minutes later. 400 aircraft, 6 carriers, 1 target. In a cabin below deck, Lieutenant Zenji Abe cannot sleep. This will be his first real combat. He has trained his whole life for this. Training, discipline, honor. Tomorrow he will prove his worth to the Emperor. Or die trying. Stars hang over the carrier. Millions of stars. A calm, indifferent sky. In a few hours, it will be set alight by explosions and smoke. On the naval radio, silence. No transmissions. The Japanese know the Americans are listening. That's why they are quiet. They sail like ghosts across the ocean. Invisible. Deadly. Admiral Nagumo checks his watch. 12 hours to the attack. The longest 12 hours of his life. Pearl Harbor, Saturday night. Honolulu is alive with energy. Bars are packed. Music is playing. Couples are dancing. Hotel Street is the main entertainment hub. Tattoo parlors, bars, nightclubs. Sailors are spending their weekly pay. Drinking, laughing, forgetting about discipline. This is their last night of normalcy. In one of the bars, Sailor Joe takes a girl out to dinner. Her name is Mary. She's 18, works at a clothing store. She's beautiful. Joe plans to propose to her in a month. In 12 hours, Joe will be dead on the deck of the USS West Virginia. Mary will keep his picture in her wallet for the rest of her life. In another bar, a group of pilots are playing billiards. Bets, vodka, loud laughter. One of them, Lieutenant Bob, has just won $10. Tomorrow, he'll be shot down over the airfield. The wreckage of his plane won't be found until 1984. At the cinema, a new film is playing. The theater is full of young couples. A romantic comedy. Everything seems so normal, so safe. It's an illusion. The last peaceful hours. Tokyo, 1 a.m. Japanese time. Emperor Hirohito cannot sleep. He knows the attack will begin in a few hours. It is a decision that will change the fate of the nation. Either a great victory or total disaster. There is no middle ground. In the naval headquarters, officers are monitoring every signal from the fleet. Silence. This is good news. It means they haven't been detected. Admiral Yamamoto sits alone in his office. He smokes cigarette after cigarette. He once said, "I can go crazy for 6 months, maybe a year. After that, America will crush us." He knows what comes next. He knows this is the beginning of the end. But orders are orders. Bushido. Honor. On the streets of Tokyo, people sleep peacefully. They don't know that tomorrow their country will enter the greatest war in history. That in 4 years, 2 cities will turn into radioactive dust. That millions will perish. Everything begins tomorrow at dawn. At a quiet harbor somewhere in the Pacific. Where no one expects it. Pearl Harbor, midnight. Change of the guard. Sentry George Taylor takes over his shift on the USS Nevada. It's a quiet night, the stars shining brightly. "I'll catch a nap in a minute," thinks George. "No one will know." The Nevada is the only battleship that will manage to sail away tomorrow. It will burn, but it will survive. George will survive too. He'll become a rear admiral. But that's a story for later. For now, he just yawns and looks out at the dark water. In the barracks on land, most people are already asleep. Quiet snoring, whispers, someone tossing in their sleep. Young boys from all over America, from farms, cities, small towns. They dreamt of adventure, of serving their country. Tomorrow, they'll get more adventure than they ever imagined. At Pacific Fleet Headquarters, Admiral Husband Kimmel finishes his work. A long, tiring day. Tomorrow is Sunday. Maybe he'll wake up early and play golf. He doesn't know that tomorrow, at 8 a.m., he will become a scapegoat. That Washington will blame him entirely for the disaster. That history will remember him as the man who missed Pearl Harbor. The Japanese fleet, 3 in the morning. Pilots wake in the dark. A traditional breakfast. Rice, miso soup, seaweed. Maybe their last breakfast. Maybe the last thing they'll ever eat. No one says it, but everyone thinks it. Commander Fuchida gathers the squadron leaders. Final instructions. Remember, battleships are the priority. Aircraft carriers if you see them. Hangars, fuel depots, anything you can. Let's move fast. Strike hard. Come back alive. Banzai! Everyone answers. Banzai! Long live the Emperor! On the carrier decks, the mechanics are already preparing the planes. They check engines, refuel, load torpedoes. Special torpedoes, with modified rudders so they would work in the shallow water of Pearl Harbor. A technological masterpiece. Deadly effective. Admiral Nagamo gives the final order. At 5:30, the first wave takes off. 183 planes. 0 hours 0600. Target, Pearl Harbor. Leave no stone unturned. This is the moment. Now. In 2.5 hours, hell begins. Pearl Harbor, 5 in the morning. The first pale light on the horizon. Most of the base is still asleep. The sentries walk about sleepily. One of them, young Jim, just lit a cigarette. The last peaceful cigarette of his life. In an hour, he will be running with his clothes on fire. He will burn 50% of his body. He will survive, but the scars will remain. At Wheeler Field, all the planes stand in a row, wing to wing. Easy targets. An easy massacre. It's an order from above. Set the planes close together to make it easier to guard them against sabotage. They fear sabotage. They don't consider an air attack at all. In Pearl Harbor's channel, 70 ships are rocking gently. Battleship row. 8 battleships in 2 lines. A perfect trap. If the first one sinks, it will block the rest. USS Arizona, USS Oklahoma, USS West Virginia, USS California, USS Nevada, USS Tennessee, USS Maryland, USS Pennsylvania. Steel Mountains. In an hour, most of them will lie at the bottom. In the city, the last couples are returning from the nightclubs, holding hands, kissing in the streets. Young, in love, unaware. Japanese carriers, 5:30 in the morning. The aircraft engines begin to roar, one after another. a powerful roar slicing through the darkness. Pilots in the cockpits, helmets on their heads, gloves gripping the sticks. Commander Fuchida, in his Nakajima B-5N bomber, gives the signal. The first plane moves. It races down the deck, takes off from the carrier's bow, vanishes into the gray light. The second, the third, the 10th, the 50th, the 101st. It is a ballet of death. Precisely planned, perfectly executed. 183 planes of the first wave circle above the fleet, forming into squadrons. Zeros, bombers, torpedo planes. They check headings, radio frequencies. Silence. Only the drone of engines. Fuchida looks at the compass. Course 190. The target is 180 kilometers away. Flight time, 1 hour 40 minutes. 0 hour, 7:55. Fuchida gives the signal. Heading Pearl Harbor. The planes set course south. Downward, toward the horizon, toward history. Toward the hell they are about to unleash. Pearl Harbor, 6:45 a.m. The sun rises over the ocean. It will be a beautiful day. In a cafe by the harbor, the owner opens up. He brews coffee, sets the tables. In 15 minutes, his windows will be blown out by the blast wave. At the base, the destroyer USS Ward detects something strange on its radar. An unidentified object. Small, fast. What is it? Ward fires. It sinks a Japanese midget submarine. The first casualty of Pearl Harbor, an hour before the attack. Ward reports to headquarters. The message is swallowed by the bureaucratic machine. Nobody reacts. After all, it's impossible. Japanese submarines? Here. At the same time, at the Opana Point radar station, 2 young operators see something troubling on the screen. A huge group of objects is approaching from the north. Over 100 planes. They call headquarters. The duty officer replies in a bored voice, "That's surely our B-17S. They're due in from the mainland today. Relax, guys. Relax. The greatest relax in history. Those are not B-17. That is the Japanese first wave. 7 minutes to the target. 7:48 a.m. Commander Fuchida sees Pearl Harbor. Calm, sleeping, defenseless. 8 battleships in a row. Incredible. No reaction, no alarm. A perfect surprise attack. Fuchida raises his hand. He gives the signal. A code comes through the radio. Tora, Tora, Tora. Tiger, Tiger, Tiger. It means complete surprise. Success. The Zero fighters dive first. They strike the airfields. Wheeler Field, Hickam Field. Hangars explode. Planes lined up in rows burn one after another. American pilots run in their pajamas trying to get airborne. Too late. The torpedo bombers fly low over the water, 80 kilometers an hour, 10 meters above the waves. Target. Battleship Row. USS Oklahoma takes the first torpedo. Then the second. The third. The fourth. It capsizes in 12 minutes. 400 men trapped inside. Some will survive 36 hours, pounding on the hull, begging for rescue. USS Arizona takes a bomb to its munitions magazine. A massive explosion. The ship splits in half, sinks in 9 minutes. 1,177 men die instantly. Some are still sleeping. It's 7:55 a.m. Hell has begun. Pearl Harbor is burning. The sky is black with smoke. Screams, explosions, the roar of falling planes. USS West Virginia takes 6 torpedoes. The commander, Captain Bennion, dies from shrapnel. The ship slowly sinks. USS California is burning and taking on water. USS Nevada tries to escape. As the only battleship, it fires up its engines and heads for the channel exit. The Japanese concentrate their fire on it. They want to sink it at the entrance, block the entire harbor. Nevada, burning, with gaping holes in its sides, but still afloat. It's an act of heroism, but also desperation. Finally, command orders it to stop. It runs aground. It will survive. At Wheeler Field, 2 pilots, Welch and Taylor, run to their P-40. They take off under fire. They rise into the sky, full of Japanese planes. They fight like madmen. Together, they will shoot down 7 enemy aircraft. Heroes. At the hospital, medics receive the first casualties. Burns, shrapnel, amputations. The floors are slippery with blood. There aren't enough bandages, morphine, or hands to help. People die in the hallways. On the streets of Honolulu, people look up at the sky in terror. What's happening? Drills? Number. It's real war. It has come to them. 8:40 a.m. The second Japanese wave. 171 planes. Everything is already burning, but they keep attacking. They finish off the remnants. They destroy what has survived. Airfields, shipyards, fuel depots. Nothing can be left standing. The Americans are firing now. Anti-aircraft guns roar. Fighters try to get airborne. Too few. Too late. The Japanese lose 29 planes. Few compared to the devastation they've wrought. At the bottom of the harbor lie 8 battleships. 5 sunk. 3 heavily damaged. 188 planes destroyed. 2,413 Americans are dead. 1,178 are wounded. The Japanese lost 64 men. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. Admiral Nagamo receives the reports. Total success. Targets destroyed. But the squadron commanders ask for a third wave. Let's destroy the shipyards, fuel depots, finish it all. Nagumo refuses. Enough. We're returning. It's a mistake. The fuel depots and shipyards will survive. America will rebuild its fleet faster than expected. In 6 months, Midway. In 4 years, Hiroshima. 10:30 a.m., Pearl Harbor. The Japanese have flown away. Silence. A strange, heavy silence. Only the crackling of flames, the moans of the wounded, the splash of water flooding sinking ships. On the USS Arizona, the wounded are still being pulled out. Those few who survived. The water around the ship is black with oil and red with blood. Burning patches of fuel float on the surface. People try to swim to shore through a sea of fire. Some don't make it. Divers descend to the wrecks. They hear banging. People trapped in steel coffins. They try to free them. In most cases, it's too late. On the streets of Honolulu, chaos reigns. People search for their loved ones. The telephone exchange is flooded. Everyone's calling, everyone's asking, "Are you alive? Where are you?" Nothing is known. In Washington, it's 4 p.m. President Roosevelt receives the news. His face hardens. Pearl Harbor attacked. The fleet destroyed. Thousands dead. This changes everything. America was neutral. Now it will be at war. Tomorrow, Roosevelt will give his famous speech, a day that will live in infamy. December 7th, 1941, the day that changed the world. 4 years later, Japan surrenders. Hiroshima and Nagasaki are radioactive dust. The empire is destroyed. Yamamoto was right. They woke the sleeping giant. America mobilized industrial power the world had never seen. It built 120 aircraft carriers, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. It flooded the Pacific with steel and fire. Pearl Harbor was the beginning of the end, but also the beginning of something else. At the bottom of the harbor, the USS Arizona still lies. 1,177 men. They were never recovered. It is their grave. Above the wreck, a memorial was built. 1 million people visit each year to pay their respects. Oil still leaks from the wreck. The black tears of Arizona. It will flow for another 100 years. The last survivor of the USS Arizona's crew died in 2012. He was buried in the wreck with his comrades. Forever. Pearl Harbor is a lesson. Never underestimate your enemy. Never be unprepared. The price of underestimation is 2,413 human lives. Families destroyed. Dreams that will never be fulfilled. Because one day in 1941, someone didn't heed the warning.